This video shows how to process some video-based ultrasound data in a batch mode. First of all, you need to have a template. Here's a template that was produced earlier. If you go into new spline, load from template, here's a template I created earlier. You can see it has a grey line showing the minimum extent that the search function can search for a tongue contour. The green line is the maximum extent, which is named the roof. Ideally, the minimum extent would exclude floor of mouth and as much of the internal structure of the tongue as is allowable without restricting the tracking of the legitimate tongue surface. In order to do the batch processing, we need this template. You can see there's also a mandible, a new mandible spline. This is a two-dimensional spline, which indicates the position of the base of the mandible shadow. There is an option to add one for the hyoid shadow, but the hyoid shadow is a little bit off screen and only very rarely moves into the rightmost part of the display. So I've opted not to track the hyoid in this case. So we set some of the parameters away from the default. We have a confidence multiplier. Now, in order to extract the data later in this process, I'd recommend that you make this multiplier very high and ensure that all of the tongue surface points, no matter how weak and faint they are, will be will have a high confidence. So maybe something like 10,000 for this. Now in the advanced options, there are some options for controlling the edge fitting. I'd recommend that in tracking you only look about 3% of the fan distance on either side of the previously detected tongue spline. So set that to 3. Window can remain at 10. I bias the detection of edges versus the detection of bright parts of the display down to around about 10%. Keep the smoothing within keyframes, although maybe increase the smoothing up to 50 or 60, maybe even 70. The median smoother is handy for some later measures like looking at curvature, but if you have a high order of smoother, then it will tend to pull the tongue away from the tracked surface. So in this case, I'd probably set this right down at about 1 for the median smoother. Now if we move further on, and look at the Fit Hyoid tab and select the Mandible sub-tab. Now at the moment it's defaulting to looking for the mandible in the rightmost part of the display, but the mandible in this case is on the left, so shift the region that it looks. Now the width means effectively the angle. So we're looking at an angle, maybe something like 25 degrees here, so we'll set that. Okay, I'm going to set the height. Now the height is between the base of the fan up to this 3/5 mark. So from about, I guess we want to go from about 20 to maybe about 50% here. Okay, I'll